Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back. Nice to have you with us tonight. This evening's concert is called Championship Songs. I had a request to do this concert again from a fan online, and I've now forgotten the name, unfortunately, but I thought it was a great idea. It's been 4 years since I did this concert where I played many of the arrangements and songs that I worked up for the World Championship Old Time Piano Playing Contest. And this event was one of the very first to help me in my career, what little humble career I have so far. The first ragtime pianists that I ever really got to know were Bob Milne and Jeff Barnhart. I see Bob Milne is already listening. He's on YouTube tonight. Usually Bob is on Facebook. Changing things up on me there. Well, it's funny. I have more listeners on YouTube. It used to be the other way around. Anyhow, let's get things going. And the very first year I was in that contest, I played Maple Leaf Rag and Carbolic Acid, but I have played those fairly recently, so we're going to skip those and play some of the other tunes I did early on as a teenager. And of course, it's great to start with the king of classic ragtime writers, Scott Joplin. Here's The Easy Winners from 1901. everybody. There's the Easy Winners by Scott Joplin. How old were you at your first old-time piano contest, Adam? 11 years old. That was the first year I won the contest, just a couple of months after meeting Bob Milne and Jeff Barnhart. And one of the pieces I played, I think in my second year in the contest, is a classic from 1908, written by a man named George Botsford. Here's the black and white rag, and coincidentally, my version is inspired by Bob Milne, who I think is listening to the concert right now. He's one of the legendary ragtime players who had a remarkable concert career, and I just felt like he put a lot of life into this. Here's Black and White Rag. Black and White Rag. Thank you very much, everybody. I saw a comment earlier from Bill Huffman. The Facebook streaming has changed. It looks almost like everything is now considered a reel on Facebook. So it's just a different type of video than it was before. And but it's still there. Everything should still be visible if you go to my pages on Facebook. It's just called a reel instead of, the same things that it used to be called. I'm checking the messages now. I have trouble getting the comments on the Facebook Reels. Isn't it annoying when they change things on internet browsers and you can't figure it out? Yeah, Bob's here on YouTube. Isn't that great? Well, something else I learned to play in that contest early on was a piece that is now considered a classic. It was not necessarily that way in the early 1900s. This is by Eubie Blake, and he claimed he wrote it in 1899. I seriously doubt that. The first piano roll of the piece was made in 1917, so we know it's at least that old. And the original title was Sounds of Africa, and then he changed it a couple years later to the Charleston Rag, and that's how you all know it. So here's the Charleston Rag. And that's ragtime, as Eubie Blake would say, the Charleston Rag, which I've been playing for well over 20 years. Well, the numbers are going up. I've got 130 people here on YouTube. If you're enjoying the music, don't forget to hit the like button and share the live stream. I see a tip there in the chat on YouTube. Thank you very much. That's from Robert. And I don't even know how to do that tip business on YouTube, but if you want to use PayPal or Venmo, I do accept virtual tips for these concerts. All you have to do is send in a small tip on PayPal, and it's just like we were in person while I'm playing in the Diamond Bell here at the Strater Hotel in Durango, Colorado. And every little bit helps my career, helps me make a living out of this. The concert world is certainly suffering post-COVID, and I've never been able to book over 200 concerts a year like Bob Milne. I'm lucky if I have one concert or festival out of town a month, so it's always appreciated. Oh yeah, I played Charleston Rag. I used to follow Bob around Michigan when I first met him because I was just fascinated by the way he played the piano as a kid. I was probably about 10 years old when we met. He says, I heard you play Charleston Rag at the Grand Ledge Opera House. That's exactly right. That was one of the early tunes that I learned. And I'm always happy to take requests too. Don't be shy. Send them in. I'll try and keep checking Facebook. They've changed it around where it's hard to see the comments now. It's just an internet browser thing. My friend Wayne here in, the Durango area. He lives in Bayfield. They're listening tonight. Awesome. Okay, let's keep going. Zeke says, I need to come out and watch you play live at the hotel. Yes, you do. I see a request here from Leo Roth for Tiger Rag. And guess what? That's next. I think I played this about my third year in the contest. We're just going through the years here. In the junior division, you only have to play 2 songs. In the adult division, it's about 6. Used to be 6. I think they reduced it to 5. But I learned this when I was in the junior division, and of course I've always been fascinated by Jelly Roll Morton. I really do think that he has the best version of this, and that's what I learned first, but later on I created my own version. This is the Jelly Roll Morton version of Tiger Rag. Thank you very much, everybody. Tiger Rag. Yes, that is similar to the version Morten Gunnar Larsen plays. I think his is the most interesting and original Tiger Rag that I have yet heard. It's based on the Jelly Roll Morton recordings, but he makes it original. You know, you never want to copy other people too much. He makes it very much his own, but in the Morton style. I'm just reading the comments here. Yes, at the World Championship Old Time Piano Playing Contest next year, Paul Orsi will be on stage with me, who is a wonderful gentleman that I love and respect with great stage presence. He's a former Disneyland pianist, and since Ted Lehman has retired and sort of given the reins over to me as the MC of this event, I had to find someone else to kind of be my sidekick on stage, and of all the people who have played in the contest recently, I thought that Paul Orsi would be the best choice. So for those of you that don't know, that's what will be happening next year. And again, this is the event that really kind of gave me my start, and so at least in the ragtime festival world, and so I'm hopeful that it will continue going, but it's been very hard to drum up much attendance in Oxford, Mississippi since the contest moved down there, which next year will be 10 years. It has now been in Oxford, Mississippi, which is a beautiful town on a gorgeous university campus. You'd be surprised. Yeah, I see a lot of friends checking in here online. Let me see Facebook again real quick. This new reel business is very annoying. Does it show how many people are listening? I see 23 likes. Oh, I have a listener from Canada online. Ernie from Canada. Wow. And one from Rhode Island. That's a rarity. Well, let me keep going here. I know my friend Nick Taylor's listening from Florida. He's been down there for a little while with his cousin Therese. So hello to all of you in Florida. Hope you can hear me. And Nick really loves the classic ragtime. So here's a classic rag. Again, I have known Nick for over 20 years because of the World Championship Old Time Piano Playing. Nick was a judge when I was at the contest around age 12 or 13, so I've known him at least that long. And here's one of the James Scott rags that I learned to play in the contest. This is from late in the period. It's very flashy. When you're playing in this contest, the material has to be very flashy. And so you're going to hear a lot of that tonight. Here's the New Era Rag by James Scott. very much, everybody. A classic rag by James Scott called it New Era Rag. Yeah, up to 141 listeners. Isn't that awesome? It is wintertime now, and as you know, I'm going to be doing these concerts every week again, as of this Sunday, and have something fun planned for next week already. But, you know, again, this contest has been very important in my life and career, and so maybe it's the subject too. And I think people probably realized tonight was going to be a lot of flashy songs. You know, as Bob Milne taught me when I was very young, it is actually more difficult to play slow than it is to play fast. And the funny thing is, I don't get many requests for beautiful slow songs. In order to win that contest, I figured out kind of a methodology for myself over the 10 or 12 years I did it, and it included a lot of variety. So you'd play a blues, you'd play a rag, a classic rag, then you'd play a novelty piano solo, and then a popular song or a ballad. But it still all had to be kind of flashy in order to win the contest. And here's a piece that I learned. We're going to do a novelty piano solo now. I think I played this about my third year in the contest as a junior competitor. I have always loved the music of Roy Bargy, who was probably about the second greatest novelty piano composer outside of Zez Confrey. And so here's Piano Flash by Roy Bargy from about 1922. Piano Flash Thank you very much, everybody. Yeah, people are talking about the time change here in the chat. It feels like it's about an hour later to me than it should be. But that's no big deal. I'm used to playing much later at the hotel. Somebody says, great night for popcorn and letting the pets in to enjoy. Everybody wants a key to my cellar. Afraid I've never played that. It's a Prohibition song, and I certainly didn't play it at the contest. Oh my gosh, we're up to almost 150 viewers on YouTube. This is terrific. Guess I better keep going. I need to relax a little bit. Oh, Foundering brought me here. That's Kylan De Gatoli's name on Twitch. Well, I think his YouTube channel is the same. I'm checking Twitch now. Oh yes, I will play French Pastry Rag. Don't worry. I'm sort of going in chronological order, the songs that I learned as I was preparing for this piano contest. And one of them is another beautiful classic rag by Joseph Lamb. We've done Scott Joplin, James Scott. Now let's do Joe Lamb here from 1919, the Bohemia Rag. very much. That's Bohemia Rag. Yes, Dave Goodlaxon has already realized that my version was inspired by John Arpin. In the old days, all the ragtime pianists had their own distinct style, but my saying is, I only steal from the best. A friend of mine, one of my listeners, sent me one of John Arpin's CDs that I had not yet heard, and I have been listening to him play for nigh on 22 or 23 years, and did have the pleasure of meeting and working with him 3 times before he passed away, and I just think he was one of the greatest pianists in the field of popular music that ever lived. Well, now we're going to do some Harlem Stride piano. Different style again here, showcasing variety, and this piece I learned off the player piano roll. Another dear departed friend, Mike Montgomery, gave me a piano roll of this when I was about, 13, something like that. And so I decided, I had just gotten my first player piano, so I decided I was going to learn this piece. And this is one of the early stride piano showpieces by James P. Johnson. Not Carolina Shout. This is Harlem Strut, which came out the same year, 1921. And it's very flashy. I played this in the contest. Might have been my first year in the adult division. My first year in the adult division at the contest was when I was 15. So here's the Harlem Strut. Harlem Strut by James P. Johnson. Not an easy piece. I'm checking the comments here. Let me check Twitch real quick. Well, I've got 5 listeners. That's better than usual, I think. We're holding hovering around 150 on YouTube. That's terrific. How many have we got on Facebook? Somebody try and figure it out for me. I wish they hadn't gone to this reel format. Oh, I heard from Penny Shores. Yes, I had forgotten Bohemia Rag was Mike's favorite. That's right. Another dear departed friend. That's the curse of having friends who are so much older than you. Yep, you lose them. Okay. Oh, Carl says 29. Okay. You must be able to see something I can't, Carl. Another stride piano piece. We're going to keep that theme going here. This one, it was hard to find the original sheet music for this. In fact, Butch Thompson is the one who sent it to me when I wanted to play it in the contest. And I played this, I think, again, my first year in the adult division, something like that. So I would have been about 15 when I learned it. And this was Willie the Lion Smith's first published composition, 1925. Fairly close to the way it was written in the sheet music at that time. Here is Keep Your Temper. Thank you very much, everybody. There's Keep Your Temper by Willie the Lion Smith. I got a request on Facebook prior to tonight's concert for one of the tunes I played in the contest. And the tune is by the great U.B. Blake. So we're going to go back to U.B. Blake now. This was his most famous song of all, written in 1921 for the Broadway show Shuffle Along. And I play it differently than I did at the time I played it in the contest. I have changed my arrangements over the years, you know, just to improve some things and for variety's sake. I now play it as a medley with several other songs from the Broadway show Shuffle Along. So here's I'm Just Wild About Harry, first played as a waltz, the way it was originally written, and then Baltimore Buzz, Eubie Blake was from Baltimore, and we'll wind up with the Gypsy Blues, which was one of the hits of the show, based on Victor Herbert's Gypsy Love Song. So here now are 3 songs from Shuffle Along. I didn't play them all in the contest, but I did play I'm Just Wild About Harry. much. I'm just Wild About Harry, and a couple of other tunes from Shuffle Along. Oh, thank you, Kelly, for putting in there. Tips, tips, tips. I appreciate the reminder. The winter season has come, and I'm not playing 6 nights a week at the Diamond Bell anymore. I do have a player piano roll on top of the piano tonight, which I'm going to play for you now. And this is a piece I played in the contest, and I learned it off of a Tom Breyer transcription. I asked Tom to do a number of transcriptions for me for the contest. That was not one of them. But anyway, he did it in the key of F, and it's really written in F sharp. I've never relearned the piece in the correct key. So I'm just going to play the piano roll for you. In fact, this was only ever released on a piano roll, and it's one of the most remarkable and difficult of all the Roy Bargy piano novelties. From 1920, this is called Oh Me Oh My, spelled O-M-E-O-M-Y, all one word. This is one of these wonderful blues tone piano roll recuts. So it should play perfectly, and here is Roy Bargy, Oh Me Oh My. Let me rewind this real quick. We'll move on to something else. There. It is now exactly 7 o'clock here in Durango, Colorado, so I'll make my second announcement of the night. I do accept virtual tips for these concerts. Some people have done it right here in the chat on YouTube. You can also send in PayPal or Venmo, and the information should be in the chat and the postings on all three websites. Every little bit helps with my career. If you enjoy this music and want to help me try and keep it alive, like I say, a little tip goes a long way, especially if I'm able to answer a request for you, something like that. Tonight I'm sticking mostly to the songs I played in the World Championship Old Time Piano Playing Contest. But I want to mention a couple of other things to you. First, I've already decided what I'm going to do for next week's virtual concert, and I have kind of hinted at this before. I've wanted to do it for a while, and I'm finally allowed because the family has finished going through probate court. Next week's concert is going to be called A Tribute to David Jason, who is one of the most important scholars and authors in the field of ragtime and early American popular music. Dave, I looked it up. It's so coincidental that I'm finally able to announce this today. Dave passed away 3 years ago today. It's hard to believe it's been that long already, but when I say a tribute to Dave Jason, what it's going to be mostly is sheet music, songs that I have purchased from his remarkable collection. I imagine he had one of the top 5 collections of popular sheet music in the world, including every kind of music. I got to know Dave fairly well over the course of several years and got to visit him at his apartment in New York City one time, and he explained all of his thoughts about collecting music to me, and one of those things was that, well, it should be, you should collect everything. You should just collect every style of music. And part of his reasoning for that was that some people might want to trade music with him. Someone collects a different type of music than what Dave wants, and so forth. So that will be next week's virtual concert. Yes, Dave was a pianist. I will play some of his pieces as well. So please join me for that next week. In the meantime, let's keep things going here, and let me change up the style of music a little bit. And here's a song that's actually from what would be considered like a black nightclub show in Harlem, New York. It was called Connie's Inn. Fats Waller wrote the music, but it has since become a jazz standard. Here is Honeysuckle Rose, my little version of it that I played in the old-time piano contest. Thank you very much, Honeysuckle Rose. And as Fat Swaller said, one never knows, do one? Isabel here on the chat in YouTube says, a tribute to Dave Jason. Whoa, I must humbly acknowledge my ignorance. Never heard. Well, I suspect many of you have not necessarily heard his name, but again, there will be a wide variety of music, mostly music from his collection, a few of his pieces. I've already done tributes to U.B. Blake, Johnny Maddox, Max Morath, some of the other most important ragtime players. So it's time to do Dave Jason next. Someone here says they used to listen to Dave Jason on the radio. Yeah, in fact, and if you've never heard of him, check out on YouTube. There is a series of something like 28 or 29 hour-long lectures that Dave did on the history of jazz. You can listen to him lecture for 29 hours if you would like, and I'm sure it's all very good and very interesting. So that's coming up next week. Now, let's see. You know, I've been forgetting to show the sheet music here on the piano. I played Tiger Rag towards the beginning of the concert, and speaking of the Dave Jason collection, here is the original edition of Tiger Rag with the original Dixieland Jazz Band on the cover, 1917. Took me no less than about 20 years to find this. I finally did, and that's the first edition. That's what it looks like. I played that earlier. Now here's this piece, which was written by Ted Shapiro, who's a songwriter, a pianist, a music publisher. He wrote the famous ballad, If I Had You, and he played the piano for vaudeville stars like Eva Tangway, Nora Bayes, and then most famously Sophie Tucker. He played the piano for Sophie Tucker for decades. And he also wrote a couple of novelty piano solos. And I don't know why I chose this for the contest. I think it just sounded impressive to me. And I had, of course, at the time, I was just discovering who Ted Shapiro was. Here's the original edition from 1923. My suspicion is this was a follow-up to Kitten on the Keys. It's called Putting on the Dog. I haven't played this in a long time, so I relearned it just this weekend. Talk about putting on the dog. putting on the dog. Thank you very much, everybody. This is a challenging concert tonight. I'm out of breath. And that's just because all of these pieces and arrangements are flashy ones that I created for the old time piano contest. Well, I'm just reading the comments here. I'm tired. Dave Goodlack said, yeah, I've never heard that piece before. I don't think I've played it on a virtual concert. It came back to me pretty quick because I had it committed to memory, I won't say 20 years ago, but about 18 years ago. Oh, that's a great idea, Jim. Yeah, I'll play one or two of my own pieces here towards the end of the concert. Promise I will do that. Let me check Facebook real quick. See what's going on over here. I'm reading the newest comments. Have a listener from Australia. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, got up to 160 on YouTube. Guess I better keep going. Before I forget to show the sheet music, let me do this one. Here's the French Pastry Rag, the original edition with a wonderful cover photograph of the composer, Les Copeland, who was the pianist with Lou Dockstadter's Minstrels, 1914. The last year I competed was 10 years ago, in 2015, and I actually played this in the final round the last year. Even though it's kind of a folk rag, I just think it's a really great piece. It's very impressive. Certainly Les Copeland's best work. Good night, Bob. Here's the French Pastry Rag. And I know we have listeners from France. Pastry Rag. Thank you very much, folks. I can't believe this. One of my friends, Daryl Woodruff, has kept track of almost everything I've played on these virtual concerts for 5 years. He says, you played Putting on the Dog in 2022. Well, what do you know? More recently than I thought. I had no idea. I'm looking at my list here. There's a couple of things I really have to play before the night's over. I will do one of my own rags. Got a request for that. Next up, let's do a popular song now. Again, variety is key. And this is from about 1924. Truly one of the great Roaring Twenties tunes. And you know, the old-time piano contest started at the Monticello, Illinois Railroad Museum. They put a piano on the back of a caboose. And so originally you had to play a train song. Since then, we have done a different theme every year, and this is one of the train songs. Here's Alabama Bound, my contest arrangement. Alabama Bound. Thank you very much, folks. I see Joe Sells listening, and he just asked me for a Johnny Maddox tune. As far as I know, there's never been any sheet music written down for that one, Joe. Although I do have something incredibly special to share with you that I just discovered today. I'm going to go on a little tangent here for just 2 minutes. Forgive me, folks. I have been studying and collecting the music of Glenn Rowell for almost 20 years because Johnny Maddox made an album with him of ragtime piano duets and toured with him for about 3 years and called him the kindest, most wonderful man he ever met in his life. Glenn, of course, was a huge radio star in the 1920s and 30s, and I've just connected recently with a man in Cleveland, Ohio, who collects memorabilia of Glenn Rowell, Gene Carroll, and Ford Rush, who are all on the radio together. and he shared with me one of Captain Glenn Rowell's TV shows from the 1950s. So now we're talking maybe 8 years. Has it been 8 years? 7 years since Johnny's passing. I was able to see Glenn Rowell on TV in color. And I was just so happy I almost cried. It was a very special experience for me. Sometime in a virtual concert here in the near future, I'll have to play more of Glenn's music. I know I've done it before, but anyway, that was very special. And this man has a remarkable collection, including some radio transcriptions of them performing, even on the Lum and Abner show, for instance. And if only I could have shown that to Johnny. Now, what's next on the list? I promised Darrell Woodruff, and I know if Marilyn Schoon and Bill Wortley are listening, they would love this tune. Here's an example of a piece that I wish I could have played in the Old Time Piano Championship, but I never did because too many other people kept playing it. Here is a very hot tune from about 1919, written by two different guys from New Orleans, Spencer Williams and Clarence Williams, who were not related to each other. But it was written about a nightclub in Chicago, and it's called the Royal Garden Blues. Thank you very much, everybody. Royal Garden Blues. I don't know if Marilyn and Bill are listening tonight or not, are they? I hope so. I'm going to check Facebook real quick. They're usually on Facebook. I see some good requests. If you knew Susie, I'm sorry I'm not going to have time to get to all of them. Oh, yep, Marilyn's listening. I figured as much. I want to play for you one more real flashy piece. And this one's special because I also chose to play it when I was at Carnegie Hall in New York. And again, I had Tom Breyer transcribe a few pieces for me specifically for the contest. And I knew it would be unlikely anyone else would play these pieces. This is an example of a rag that was never published, but is just awesome. Written by the virtuoso Lucky Roberts, supposedly, in the early 1900s, as early as 1908 or so, but he didn't record it until 50 years later. And it's called simply Nothing. Nothing. Thank you very much, folks. Joe, I was not talking about the the record that Johnny made with Glenn. I was talking about a TV show of Glenn's that I have just discovered today. You can actually see him play the piano and hear him sing. He had a children's TV show in the 50s called Cat and Glenn's Fun Wagon. It was mostly puppets and things. He's so cute to see him talking to these puppets and singing songs. But enough about that. Now, I got a request to play one of my own pieces. To me, the hardest part of the old-time piano championship has always been the new rag. I've only won the new rag contest twice. There are several three-time winners. I won for the straighter shuffle, which I'm sure many of you have heard me play. But now I'm going to do my most recent winner, which was written with two other guys. It's called the Transatlantic Rag, and Tom Lakeland, my friend from England, wrote the first part, hence the name of the tune. And Paul Orsi wrote the second part. I wrote the third part. Very much more of a traditional rag than the one you just heard, which is more like stride piano. Here's the Transatlantic Rag, which is what we're doing tonight on the virtual airwaves. Thank you very much. That's the Transatlantic Rag, everybody. You can buy the sheet music for that and a couple other pieces I wrote on my website. There's a couple of other things I wanted to mention. Forgive me for talking so much. I feel like I talk too much on these things. You know, in addition to the virtual concerts, I have a couple of other performances coming up. I really need to use both the virtual concerts and my live performances to promote each other. I should be doing that more than I am. Next weekend, I'll be playing a concert at Jerry DeBaker's home in Denver. He's the one who restored this Apollo piano. It's been a while, a couple of years since I played at Jerry's house. So I'll be going up there, but I'm flying home on Sunday, and because it's a direct flight, a very short flight of like 45 minutes from Denver to Durango, I'm still planning to play the virtual concert next Sunday night. It really should be no big deal. As long as the plane isn't like 6 hours late, I should be here. It really is not a problem. So I'm playing in Denver next weekend, and if you want to come to the concert, if you're in that area, there may be 2 or 3 seats left. And then, of course, in December, I am playing in France for the first time. I know I have many European listeners, and I don't play over there very often. So far, it's just one concert. I'm playing at a 1924 jazz club in Paris called Le Bal Blomé, and the tickets are available now on the Bal Blomé website. You might have to hit that Google Translate button, at least I did, but my parents are going with me. We're all very excited that I'm going to be playing in Paris in a historic venue, too, for the first time. That's in December. And then I have like virtually no gigs until the Durango Ragtime Festival coming up in April next spring. And tickets are not available for that yet, but I bet they will be here in the next 2 weeks or so. I will let you all know. And in the meantime, you can check out the DurangoRagtime.com website, and all 8 of the featured musicians for next year are now on the website. There are 8 musicians, including myself, so even one more than we had last year. And there will be a train ride to Cascade Canyon on the Durango and Silverton Railroad with some of the musicians that are playing at the Durango Ragtime Festival next year. I'm very excited. I wanted to do the train ride last year. It didn't work out. This time we're doing it. So I wanted to make a couple of those announcements. And now, before tonight's concert is over, I'm going to play one more piece for you. There were a couple of pieces I played in the old-time piano contest that I played more than once because they're popular, or I just thought it was necessary to play them. I did Maple Leaf Rag at least twice, I did Tiger Rag twice, and I also did St. Louis Blues. So here to finish tonight's concert is another blues, really played more in ragtime and boogie woogie. It's my full arrangement. W.C. Handy's famous St. Louis Blues. Thank you very much. There's the St. Louis Blues, everybody. Thank you all so much for the kind words in the chat. I appreciate it very much. And thank you for the tips, as always. Looking forward to playing for you again next Sunday night. And please join me for a tribute to David Jason, featuring some wonderful music from his collection. Until then, good night, everybody, and thanks again.